Love! Why are you so scared of love? Why'd you flinch? Welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the A-hole? It's your boy Markee. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show, do whatever you want to do. I'm not judging you. Posted by user, by Felicia, Am I the A-hole? Titled, Am I the A-hole for leaving a date at a restaurant? I am 28 male and single. Now that the pandemic has settled down a bit in my area, I've cautiously started dating again. I use dating apps mostly and don't really meet girls until we've talked for a week or two. Recently, I've met up with a girl that I've been talking with for a couple of weeks and we had a coffee. I thought we really hit it off, so we set up a date a couple of nights later for drinks. That went really well too, so we set up a third date for dinner. We decided on a fairly casual restaurant where we could sit outside and that wasn't too pricey. I arrived at the restaurant first and waited for her before getting a table. When we sit down, she mentions that she forgot her wallet and asked if it was okay if I paid. We had paid for ourselves on our previous dates, but I really didn't think anything of it and agreed. It's not like the place was very expensive anyway. The first red flag was when she immediately started being rude to the waitress. We hadn't even been sitting for 3 minutes, and she made a comment about it taking long enough, when the waitress came to offer us water and get a drink order. I honestly thought she was making a joke in poor taste because she hadn't behaved like this on our previous dates. She ordered a gin and tonic, and when it arrived, she took a sip and literally refused to believe it was a gin and tonic. I asked to take a sip, and it was definitely a gin and tonic. She then accused the waitress of giving her the wrong drink, to which the waitress apologized and offered to bring a new one. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the waitress just brought back the exact same drink, but the second one was perfect according to my dates. She then insisted on having an appetizer because she was starving. Okay, I like apps, let's do this. But then she ordered the most expensive entree on the menu, and a little light bulb went off in my head. She ate half her entree and then decided that it wasn't good and asked for a new one. At this point, I had enough and decided I needed to do something. I excused myself to the bathroom, found our waitress, explained that this girl sucked and I was leaving, but I wanted to pay my half of the bill. I also told her that if she told my date that she had no idea where I went, that I would give her an extra $20 in addition to the tip. It took about 20 minutes before my phone started blowing up. Text messages flowed in asking where I was, then when reality sunk in for her, she started asking how she was supposed to pay for her meal with no money. I blocked her after I got home and told the story to my roommates. She agrees the girl sucked, but thinks I was a jerk for leaving like I did. Yeah, you're both trash in this situation. She's obviously trash for her attitude, but you're a trash person for just ghosting and walking out like that, even if you did pay your half of the bill. I know there's a huge urge to do it, and it's a lot less hassle for you personally, but you really screwed them over, and I don't know, that's just not a nice thing to do. That is an a-hole thing to do for sure. I don't know who's worse in this story, but you both definitely suck. This is an everyone sucks here one for me. Everyone sucks here. She sounds like a bad date, but instead of putting the waitress in an awkward position, why didn't you confront your date and call her out on her bad behavior? Also, you knew that she couldn't pay the bill, so leaving her there without any means of paying, regardless of her behavior, was a bit crappy. Yeah, this. You were right to leave, but you should have texted the girl and said, "You're a gold digger and I'm outta here." Building on this, if she had acted nicely on the first 2 dates, which I presume, her having a sudden behavior change is odd. Even more so if she was just after money, you would think that she would have pushed for a nicer place or a dinner on an earlier date. She's behaving in a sketchy and a-hole-ish way definitely, but I wonder if there isn't some weird context behind it, and it would have been good to address it head on. Not necessarily, about pushing for a nicer restaurant. This happened to a friend of mine, but the girl was so smooth and never let on until the date, that cost a grand total of $22, was over, and she basically taunted him for being a loser, and thanks for the free meal. Some people just suck. Seems like a huge amount of work for that much money. Could be more about the thrill of using someone though. Everyone sucks here, standard case of both people doing crappy things, you agreed on something and then vanished. I get your reasons, but you don't get a pass on being an a-hole. I don't know. If I agree to do you a favor, and you're an a-hole about it the whole time, I think I have the right to back out of doing you the favor. He's an a-hole for making the date the poor waitress's problem, though. Kind of ironic, since he was leaving because he was upset that his date was crappy to the waitress. Everyone sucks here. You conceded the high ground when you ditched your date halfway through and paid extra to purposely try and maximize her embarrassment. And because of it, I guarantee you she learned nothing from the experience. You are now just the a-hole guy that ditched her. Use your words next time. Posted by user Throw the Table Away. Titled, Am I the a-hole for ruining dinner by telling the table next to ours to talk about something else? Me and my boyfriend went on a double date with my brother and his girlfriend. At the restaurant, the table closest to us began discussing a sensitive topic that is extremely and personally upsetting to my boyfriend. They were talking loud enough that it was impossible not to hear them. I know him well enough to know that he would not react well, and sure enough, he started to look upset and left to use the restroom. He texted me and confirmed he was very bothered and said I should text him so he could come back when they stopped. While he was away, I went over to the table and told them it was a sensitive topic for my boyfriend and asked them to please be mindful of who was around them and asked if they could discuss something else. They didn't say much to me but changed the topic after I sat back down, so I told my boyfriend to come back. At this point, the dinner seemed like it could be salvaged, but when my boyfriend returned, after about 10 minutes, they started to talk about it again and began making dark jokes. My boyfriend excused himself again, and I became very angry, and walked over to tell them how inconsiderate they were being. This time it was more heated, and they talked back to me, and then called for the manager. The manager told me to please leave the other guests alone, or we would have to leave. I texted my boyfriend to explain, and asked if he wanted to leave, and he said he did. So we left. My brother and his girlfriend said that I was being ridiculous and apologized to the manager and the other table for the disruption. They stayed. My brother later told me that he and his girlfriend were so embarrassed by my behavior and that they will not be going out to dinner with us again because we can't handle other people. I know this was an unpleasant situation for them, but it was unpleasant for me and my boyfriend too. Did I handle this wrong? Edit, because a bunch of people are asking, they were discussing eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia, and also not at all in a tactful way. My boyfriend has recovered from one, thankfully, but it's still a topic he avoids. Well, considering that that is the topic, I don't think that it was, enough to warrant asking them to change the topic of conversation and getting the manager over there when this event occurred. I'm sorry. Yes, eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia, they do suck. I feel like it is their choice to discuss that as a group. You don't have to listen to them if you don't want to. He can leave if he wants to. I feel like you can't force them to change the topic of conversation and then get mad at them when they don't. I guess you did more damage in trying to stop this situation than you intended, and for that, you're the a-hole in my opinion. You're the a-hole. You're out in public, and it's just odd to ask the strangers at the next table to tailor their own private conversations to something more appropriate for you to eavesdrop on. If it was intolerable, why not ask your waiter to move you to another table? I can't believe the sheer entitlement of some people these days. Is this actually a real post? Like someone actually went out into the world, sat down at the restaurant, asked another table to talk about something else twice, and then is confused about whether or not that was rude. I don't even understand where you can get the idea that you have the right to go around telling people what conversations they're allowed to have in your blessed presence. Are you the fudging queen or something? I feel so bad for the brother and his girlfriend. The first time, I would have begged OP to not say anything and ask the waitress for another table. The second time, I'd be mortified, quickly pay my bill, tip the waitress handsomely, apologize to everyone on behalf of my obnoxious sister, and leave. OP, you owe your brother and his girlfriend a massive apology. If my sister would have done that before leaving a restaurant, I'd send the other table a round of drinks or a bottle of wine to apologize because I would be so embarrassed. Told them it was a sensitive topic for my boyfriend. I have no idea why you would out your boyfriend and tell complete strangers about his traumatic past. Who does that? If the topic of conversation was genuinely obscene or horrific, then asking them to change the subject was fair enough. But if it was a general subject that just happens to be sensitive for your boyfriend, then it's up to him to manage his sensitivity. You're the a-hole for making this a huge drama. Hey, I'm sensitive to drama. I had a dramatic past, and would appreciate it if you refrained from using that word on this thread. If you don't, I'm gonna contact the mods and have you banned, buddy. Just kidding. Your post was very insightful and well done. OP, do you see how ridiculous that sounds? Posted by user Last Will for Me. Titled, Would I be the a-hole if I exclude my daughter from our will, but make her the executor? Hello there. A friend told me about this site and I need a judgment before making things official. I am 63 female and my husband is 70 male. Due to world events, we decided to update our will. We are perfectly healthy, but just in case. We have 2 children together, Lily and Matt. Our children have always been extremely different from one another. Lily is independent. She's not needed me much after age 10 or so. She's very intelligent, holds multiple degrees, and is a pediatric neuropsychologist. She's married to George, 37 male, an engineer. Together, they are very well off. They do not have children, although they could afford to. Lily's reasoning is that the planet may not be sustainable in the future, and that the technology and social climate makes raising mentally healthy children difficult. I believe her job puts her in contact with families and children in difficult situations, which has skewed her perspective because, growing up, she always wanted children. She has asked that my husband and I shift our perspective of family. To be fair, she visits us and calls us often, and even reminds her younger brother of our birthdays and anniversary. Matt has always needed me to help him put it all together. He had dyslexia in school, and barely managed to graduate college after 6 years. We are so proud he did. He works in the tourism industry, and his work is somewhat seasonal. He's been in a relationship with Heidi, 31 female, who is an artist that sells some items online. Even combined, they make a fraction of what his sister and brother-in-law do. Matt and Heidi are also child-free and claim to hate kids, but we feel that this would be best as it would be difficult for them to support children and their lifestyle is less stable, as they are frequently moving apartments. We are planning on leaving 75% of our assets to Matt and the remaining 25% to our godson's 2 children. Our reasoning is that Lily does not need the money and her brother could really benefit from it, and our godson's children are the closest that we have to grandchildren. However, Lily will be made the executor of the will and asked to carry out plans for our funerals, as she is much more organized and keeps in contact with family members, whereas our son does not. My sister was visiting recently, and the topic of our will came up. She was outraged on Lily's behalf, and asked why we hate our daughter. We don't? I just would like to support people who could actually use it. My sister asked if it would be different if Lily had children, even though the children wouldn't need money either, considering Lily and George's incomes. I admitted yes, it would be different, and divided in half if that was the case. She also said it was time to stop babying Matt, and that he made his own choices in life. I asked her to leave since she just doesn't understand, and on the way, she begged me to think this over before telling Lily and Matt or making it official. So, would I be the a-hole if I went through with our original plan? It seems like your sister knows best in this situation, and if she knows Lily as well as she does, and you apparently don't know Lily as well as you do, given her reaction, I would go with yes, you would be the a-hole. It kinda does seem like you're screwing Lily out of money that she supposedly would think that she's entitled to. I'd say logic would draw you to that conclusion that, hey, my parents have an estate, they have money, I would be entitled to some of that money, logically thinking, unless I did something or said that I didn't want the money. And now that OP is confirming that it is because Lily doesn't have children, yet not holding the brother to that same standard, okay, that's so cool. Thumbs up. You would be the a-hole. Your sister is right. Making her the executor and not leaving anything to her is a huge middle finger. Your son has not achieved much because he struggled through school with dyslexia. Guess what? That is no excuse. You have babied him. There are so many people who aren't book smart, but make something out of their life anyway. It isn't even about the money. It's as if you were punishing your daughter for not needing you since age 10. If you were my parents and you did that to me, I would be heartbroken. A quick Google search of famous people with dyslexia reveals interesting results. You're spot on, and OP is you're the a-hole. Dyslexia is tough, and it's heartbreaking when you teach a smart child who really wants to learn, but is sabotaged by their brain because the parents are too cheap to hire a qualified tutor or consult someone who could give the kid the right tools. The right tools and strategies to deal with dyslexia definitely exist. Not saying that it's easy, but for kids and teens who do want to learn and or find learning satisfying whenever their dyslexia isn't in their way, it is hard extra work. But it can be done if the kid is encouraged early and helped to help themselves instead of babied. However, that would also mean that the kid would, at some point, be able to manage. And who would give mummy the feeling of being needed and indispensable? OP is such a well-rounded, perfectly shaped, clean a-hole that I suspect this is fake. If it is not, OP is ungrateful on top. Even smart kids who can function and manage on their own very young thrive on their parents' love, support, and acknowledgement. OP didn't care since her daughter was 10 because all her focus was on her baby. And where's the fun for her if she's supposed to be a proud kid who did it on her own without her? How's she supposed to pride herself? And yet the daughter still does her best to be in her parents' life. She still cares about her parents more than her parents ever cared about her, and probably still thrives whenever mummy manages to talk to her without making it about her favorite child for longer than a minute. I'd bet that the daughter would never have given a single damn about the money if her parents had been able to show her that they cared about her too, and that they are just as proud of her achievements, of the person she is, and the things she does that doesn't relate to money. Or making money. I wonder when the last time was that OP enjoyed having to talk with her daughter about OP's and the daughter's lives without redirecting the conversation to the brother and swooning over how great he is and how proud OP is of him. And the daughter still calls and tries. I really hope it's generosity and loyalty on her part, and not sadness and desperation for her parents' approval and unconditional love. Posted by user Pav09, titled, Am I the a-hole for shaving my toddler's head against my ex-husband's wishes? I, 34 female, am Indian, but my family moved to the US when I was in middle school. My ex-husband is white, American, and we split up just after my daughter's Anna birth in 2017. He was cheating during my pregnancy, got the AP pregnant, and made her abort. He's a scumbag, but we share custody. Anyway, it's important in my culture to shave a toddler's first hair. The idea is to cut off any negativity from the past life. I'm not a religious person, but it's still a very important ceremony. Everyone does it, even if you are atheist. Well, my husband was tramping and moaning about it for months leading up to the ceremony, but I told him it was happening no matter what. We had the Mundana ceremony a few months ago, and Anna's hair is slowly growing back. Every time my ex picks up Anna for his week, he uses the opportunity to complain about her hair. My parents just think that he's just racist. Am I the a-hole for going through with the ceremony despite him not liking it? In my view, Anna deserves to know her culture and hair grows back. Okay, I'll admit that I read the comments before making a decision on this one because I'm really on the fence with it myself. In circumstances with things like this going on, I feel like it's absolutely personally driven, in I guess how you would go about situations like these and how you would feel about it. In this case, I don't want to go into whataboutism and extrapolate saying, well, if this guy, then what if this one, and American culture, but what if not American culture? In this specific scenario, I don't think OP is the a-hole because it's not hurting the kid, it's just something that the ex-husband doesn't agree with. You may be an a-hole in his eyes, but in my eyes, I don't think you're an a-hole for shaving the toddler's hair, as it's not hurting the toddler. It's a religious ceremony, and it's something that he should know that you expected to do with the child when it became of age. And therefore I feel like he needs to respect that, as he chose to marry you in the first place, and he chose to have a kid with you. So for those reasons, I'm going to go with not the a-hole. I understand that people may not agree with that, and that's okay. Look, your ex-husband sounds like, well, not a nice person. But something like this should be both parents' decision, really. So in the name of fair judgment and not letting your ex's actions influence my vote, I think morally I have to go with everyone sucks here, except your daughter, of course. They could do a tiebreaker and ask the toddler if she cares about what her hair looks like. Actually, Mother, I wanted to create a pro-con list to work through my cultural identity as a biracial child. Also, can I have a snacky and watch Paw Patrol? Wasn't being snarky, I just made myself laugh. I'd think it was more along the lines of the fact I know my toddler sister would sob if anyone shaved off her hair. She loves it. That said, my sister is at the upper end of being a toddler. I doubt a 13-month-old would actually give a crap, unlike a 2 to 3-year-old. Kids understand more than we give them credit for, and honestly, meltdowns are probably the result of, I don't know what's going on, please someone hear me. Even if it was just the grilled cheese sandwich was cut in half and not triangles. Not the a-hole. He knew when he married you originally about your culture and that certain things would happen for your children. She's a toddler and hair grows back. You did nothing wrong. Let him whine like the big baby that he is. Honestly, it could go the other way just as easily. She knew she was marrying an American with different customs who might have some reservations about such a drastic change to a little kid's appearance. If you marry someone from a different culture, you have to realize that they're going to enrich your life with their culture. If you have children, they will be learning two cultures. Neither parent had the right to claim that the child is raised 100% in their culture. Well, no, neither can claim to raise the kids 100% their own way. What I meant was that they should have decided which ceremonies and religious practices they'd observe before getting married and having kids. Not that one would get their way 100% and the other was crap out of luck. Everyone sucks here. Your reasons for wanting to shave her head are completely understandable, but you also chose to have a kid with a partner who does not share your same culture and beliefs, so you shouldn't be surprised when he doesn't agree with you. Even though he cheated and was unquestionably a horrible husband to you, he's still your child's father, and he does deserve to have a say in the decision. If in the future he wants to cut your daughter's hair in a way that you don't like, and he just ignores your opinion and says, it's happening, I am sure you would be angry too. I'm going against the grain here, and I'm saying you're the a-hole. This is not just your child, you share this child with someone who has just as much of a right to her as you do, regardless if he cheated on you. I think all of your information about his race and cheating was to get people to side with you, and I think that's crappy. I told him it was happening no matter what. Everyone does it. You're the a-hole. And yeah, I'd complain every time I saw my daughter's shaved head too. This, plus also, as an Indian, the mundan is actually foregone by a lot of people now and is not a necessity. In either case, i.e., if you choose to do it or not, it is not just your decision to make, it is his as well. Also, a lot of Indian children are traumatized by their mundan, so that in itself is a crappy thing for parents to do, further making you the a-hole here. And if you live in a cold place, it's a layer of protection just missing from your child's head. It also has no real significance. It's just something that's done for no rhyme or reason. The reason my mother gave us was so that you have a fuller, thicker head of hair, and that makes sense how? It's also pretty traumatic to put kids through the whole process. My parents traumatized my older sister 3 whole times because her hair wasn't apparently growing back thick enough. But if you see her pictures pre-ceremony, she had a thick head of hair, so why? And I'm so glad the current generation isn't fully doing this. It's so much less traumatic. For the sake of tradition and his parents, my cousin just cut a tiny lock of hair from his daughter's head rather than putting her through a mundan. ETA, source, Indian-born confused Af Desi. Okay, and I think that's where we're going to end today's episode, guys. As always, I do hope you enjoyed it and maybe even learned something from these stories. Just want to say a quick shout out to my Patreon subscribers and my channel members. You guys should be on the screen right now. If you do see yourself, I want you to give yourself a little pat on the back for being amazing and supporting me on this channel, this little journey we're going on the YouTubes. I really appreciate it, and you guys enable me to do all this amazing work. So if you do see yourself, I love your face and I'm happy to see you. Also guys, if you want to pitch in your own support, you don't have to, but channel links are down in the description below to support the Patreon, the channel membership, whatever you want to do. It's kind of like tipping me if you feel like I'm doing a good job on this channel. I will be opening up avenues for content on those in the future. Just right now I'm kind of bogged down and stuck in Ireland, but you know, it is what it is. Anyway guys, with that said, I do hope you have a wonderful day today. Whatever you're up to, I'd love to know down in the comments below. I do hope you have a good day, night, sleep. Whatever you're up to today, tell me, and I'll see you in the next episode, guys. Bye.